once you open your mouth." She trailed off, giving me an odd look. "Your mouth? You have not used it as usual tonight. You are far too quiet, letting me talk on and on. Something is wrong." I sighed. Nadia knows me better than most people. I reached inside my messenger bag to show her the source of my dismay. I'd read the article at least a dozen times that day. I had even brought it with me when I left my apartment to play a set of tabla music at the Tantor Palace restaurant earlier that evening, so I knew the article had to be in my bag somewhere. It was a small story, only one short paragraph. Rupert Chadwick, age 29, was killed when his car lost control on a winding coastal road in Scotland. Rupert's family was important enough that the news was reported in the papers and spotted by an acquaintance who alerted me. A simple enough story. It would have been of little consequence to the reporter who had written the blurb. Not to me, though. Rupert and I had once been lovers. I felt Nadia's intense gaze as I searched for the piece of paper in my bag. If I hadn't known better, I could have sworn that she perceived the depth of my uncharacteristically sentimental weakness, that she knew how I wondered, perhaps for the first time, if I loved Rupert. I found the printout at the bottom of my bag. As I handed the paper to Nadia, she placed a small package in my hand. It was a padded envelope with a bulging center. The stamps were foreign, British, nothing unusual there. I'm a historian, so my work often involves corresponding with people and institutions in foreign countries. I didn't normally receive work-related packages at home, but I was glad to turn my attention to something other than Rupert. The return address caught my eye. There was no name listed, no university or institute either. Instead, the address of an inn in Scotland had been written by hand. I stared at the address. The address itself wasn't familiar, yet there was something. "Jaya," Nadia said. I realized it wasn't the first time she had said it. "You knew him well?" she asked. I gave a slight shrug. It was over a year ago. Nadia nodded, then disappeared through the kitchen door. As I waited, I turned over the curious package. Scotland. It had to be a coincidence. I tugged at the edge. It didn't budge. Strong tape reinforced all the sides. The person who sent the parcel had taken no chances. At least I didn't have any fingernails to break. I pulled at a puckered section of tape until it gave way. A folded handkerchief of bright white cloth fell onto my lap. I shook the package to make sure there was nothing else inside, then opened the bundle. A band of thick gold appeared beneath the folds of cotton. The piece of jewelry had been damaged and was missing several pieces of whatever had once been inlaid in the gold. That wasn't surprising. The piece was old enough to evoke a feeling of centuries past. Jewelry isn't my expertise, but when you study history, you get a sense of how things change over time. I knew I wasn't holding something created during my lifetime. As I turned over the piece, I saw more than gold. A solitary stone of the deepest red sparkled in my hand. The rough-cut gemstone dwarfed the thick gold frame. Even in the dim living room light of a midnight conversation, the huge ruby absorbed the light, seeming to breathe it in and out before my eyes. At that moment, I understood the preciousness of jewels. I would have sworn this was no piece of costume jewelry. This was real. I ran my fingertips over the ruby stone and along the rest of the piece. Based on its size, I guessed it was an anklet. A few granules of dirt stuck to my skin. I raised my fingers to my nose and sniffed. The dirt was what it looked like. Soil, not dust. Before I had a chance to think about what to do next, I heard the door to the kitchen creak open. I wiped the dirt from my fingers onto the handkerchief, then quickly covered up the anklet and eased it back into the package. As the cloth slipped out of my fingers, I saw something that nearly made me drop the bundle. Initials were embroidered.